been practicing.
Zap, I know he doesn't do a lot of 1v1. He's mostly a free-for-all player, but he's very strong and he has a very good understanding of the game, so it doesn't surprise me that he would continue to do well here. Both players initially revealing quite a big chunk of water. Then Soren headed north, Zap scouting south. Soren's going to spot some pretty good tiles. Good access to aluminum, decent access to carbon. Not kind of dream tiles the way Zap got last game, but still potentially very strong. Zap, on the other hand, I don't think has yet located a space that he would consider foundable. Just a couple of low carbon tiles, a couple low iron tiles. There's really nothing fantastic left that he's seen, so he might be checking around for quite some time before he manages to plant his base. Hard to tell exactly which direction he's checking in at any given time. He does find one high iron tile, but no adjacency. That's potentially very difficult to use. And he is actually going to drop Expansive kind of in the middle of the map, give him decent access to every position on the map, and then go ahead and grab up the high iron and the couple of aluminum away from Soren to maybe get himself better access to those aluminum tiles. Now Soren, I'm kind of concerned about because we've talked about this before. These 3 carbon tiles at the start of the game. I think that literally just came back to bite him. He could have gotten this very, very nice medium aluminum tile away from Zap. He could have taken it for himself, cut off Zap from maybe getting some decent adjacencies, maybe forced Zap onto the solo medium aluminum tile. Instead, he simply secured 3 carbon tiles, and now he's lost the aluminum race. Even though he got down so far ahead and got to an expansion very, very quickly. Well, Pirates. Really good particular player right now. It's always really interesting when a pirate auction comes up on day 0. Claim auction, maybe a bit more reasonable. Both players really, really want that, but they can't use it to attack each other very easily. Simply used to secure some high-value resources. Pirates, on the other hand, you can tell how highly valued these are for both players, considering Zap's actually punched it up to 24,000. He absolutely does not want to be interrupted as he tries to get his base established this game. Another thing to note, Zap throwing down Expansive. Typically this tournament, we have not seen a whole lot of success out of Expansive. PB really the only one so far that's managed to make it work. If there is another player out there that can make it work, I think Zap would be a member of that crowd, but it still seems like a bit of a risk.
Well, they could not go anything else, I think.
Yeah, I think it would have been very, very hard to argue for any other particular colony type on this map. There are a lot of high tiles, not a whole lot of adjacency going on. Maybe it's just
now,
it's a very awkward game.
Is the only iron on the map?
He's got 3 iron tiles, I believe. One of them high, which is good, but the other 2 low. And so iron might become a very expensive resource this game, depending on how much of it Zap decides he needs to buy up. Just putting down, it looks like 2 steel mills for the moment, so he won't actually be needing to buy iron from the market at this point. But once again, that can lead to very slow expansion for Zap. Expansive,
what about carbon?
Very recently nerfed, and that could cause some problems. Carbon, I believe, all exists, well, not all. Most of it is going to be in this crater near Soren. He's got 3 of the 5 tiles secured already, and on top of it, and it's all very, very close to his base, right? It's all very close to his base. He has nice, easy access to it. The other 2 are down in a crater to the south, both low, not very good. We do actually see an underground nuke from Soren on Zap's iron. I think that's potentially a very good play.
That's a good move.
Just make it so hard to generate that very valuable steel, and could cause Zap a lot of problems. It's a good move out of Soren, managing to push to that as a scavenger. At this stage of the game, can sometimes be a little difficult for scavengers to get a hold of a lot of money in the early game. Well, food short. Soren's got the slight edge on that with a little bit more food. I think they both sold at about the same time. Soren ending up with a little more cash at the end. Probably going to get
guys in the room?
A nice boost on that.
Let's see what they have to say.
This is the second game of this best of 3. Zap taking the first one for anybody joining us fairly recently. So Soren's going to be trying to even it out with this one, and I have to say, I think he's off to a good start.
Yeah, I think Soren got that one. We might see a third one.
Well, I mean, he's off to a good lead, but he is up against Zap, and let me tell you, Zap can certainly try and pull it back here. Zap actually making a very interesting move. He deleted one of his steel mills. He still says, I don't want to have to buy iron. at all, period. And he's just trying to actually produce glass at this point, which I guess could work out, but it's not a whole lot of money when you've just got one with no adjacency. All right. This is a simple claim auction, a bit more straightforward than Pirates. Both players can kind of see that, okay, yeah, tiles are nice, but they've already secured some very high value ones. Zap has very nice water available to him. Soren potentially taking better water. I have to question Zap's choice of the water that he took. I think maybe, I can't really give an explanation for why he would take this one. There's only a high and then 3 lows next to it. This one you've got a high and then a medium, a low, a low, a low. It just seems better for the most part. Maybe to avoid the neutral colony, that would be it from what I see. High Silicon also going to Soren, so that's already been taken up. We can just see that there isn't really an absolutely necessary tile for either of them to take when that claim auction came down. Now Soren has hit level 3. He's going to be moving into reactors. He's going to be actually getting into power as well. Zap already has some power production up in these wind turbines, possibly just hoping that he can force his way back into this game, very similar to the way he finished up that last one by driving Soren into a ridiculous amount of debt. Oh, that shortage is going to hurt, though. There is a fuel short. Soren already with a fair amount of fuel production down. Zap actually responds to the shortage better. He's committed about 100 fuel into this, so this is going to be a nice chunk of change for him to come back with. But Soren's certainly going to get the long-term benefit. Already having that steel production down, already having the water coming in he needs to support it. This should be very nice for him, even though he didn't get the nice boost that Zap did to force himself on up to level 3.
See,
And another
I still
underground
cannot see the
nuke.
short. Just see. We are ways behind you.
Interesting.
There you go.
But another underground nuke gonna come down. He is gonna force Zap to take those next 2 iron tiles and get his 3 iron production up. That iron tile is now at 0.25 iron a second. I would be a little surprised if we don't see that converted into something like a solar panel. It's gonna come out now. So Zap taking 2 more iron tiles. He's gonna be at 3 iron production a second, able to power 3 steel mills if he decides to. Very good for him. And Zap also choosing to move into a quite valuable farm at this stage of the game. This is where his glass production may help him out. He can get into this food better, more easily than Soren can, and we saw a very early food short, so that price has stayed very, very high for a long time.
And he claimed both of that, both of them. Both of the iron. Don't you think Soren should buy a claim?
I think that Soren should quite possibly be getting to a claim when he wants to. On the other hand, Soren, from what I've seen, Soren likes to attack people. He wants to go after them. He wants to punish them. And Zap, quite punishable right now, with almost all of his production sitting right next to each other. So we're just going to see Soren power surge those 4 tiles out, shut down all of Zap's production almost for a good 75 seconds. Interestingly enough, water engine being very highly valued this game. It's understandable. It's a 1v1. They're a bit shorter. That kind of leads more toward being able to use water engine very effectively, right? The water price is going to be more predictable. It's not going to be so insane. This is one of those big differences between a 1v1 versus a large free-for-all. Players have a lot more control over the market, so they can go ahead and use those kind of awkward patents a bit more easily. So that one's actually going to go to Zap for the moment. That's nice in a lot of ways. For one thing, it cuts out his need for fuel, right? He just needs water now. Water's very easy to acquire. He might not need fuel production at all. So that, in turn, is going to make Soren's production less valuable because less of it is going to be being purchased from the market, and Soren was relying on that fuel for his income at this stage of the game. He's going to be forced into that transition later on. I think that claim went to Soren. That's one of my kind of difficulties with... It might have gone to Zap, though. I think it was Soren. It's a difficult part about the spectator UI is unless you're like actively just staring at the black market, it's kind of hard to tell who purchased smaller things like those claims.
We're going to be able to see, though, because we're going to see who's going to be building something.
Yeah, I think it was Soren in this particular case. Soren's going for the obvious hack array. Would not be surprised to see a fuel hack before too terribly long. Just going to go for that short, and he's going to go to end the game. Soren has also already purchased up just 2 of Zap's stock. Not too aggressive, just kind of getting a little start there.
Not a bad start.
Yeah, not a bad start at all. Soren's debt is a bit higher, though, and enough higher that his stock prices actually dipped below Zap's at this point. So that might be a point of concern for him if Zap can ever get these farms fully functional and get quite a lot of production out of this food.
So it's probably Soren who bought the claim.
Yeah. Zap also not selling power at the moment. That's a bit understandable in its own way, but on the other hand, with this solar flare out right now, power's just already going to be forced down to $1 unless Soren stops selling it. And Soren, at the end of the day, has better power production than Zap. Zap's kind of, by making that particular move or trying to force that move to happen, Zap is forcing himself into a situation where he must use the black market effectively against Soren when he's in a position where he's not making a lot of money, and Soren is a scavenger player. He's going to be able to very, very easily counter any black market effects Zap is doing as long as he just has a small store of money, because he's going to have access to it twice as often. We are seeing a fuel shortage out of Soren. He knows his opponent doesn't have a lot of it. He knows his opponent has no interest in moving into it beyond the money because he acquired Water Engine. And he's just going to shut down the small amount of fuel production that Zap has. The hack will likely go off before either of these buildings turn on, and that's going to be a nice chunk of change for Soren. Scav does naturally counter Expansive. These are some fairly decent points coming from chat. Expansive, this is once again, this is kind of the issue with Expansive, right? Expansive really gets its benefit once it has expanded. It has a large number of claims available at that point compared to the other players. It can simply outproduce them very easily to finish out the game. But in a 1v1 scenario, Zap is still stuck down at level 3. The captain, Soren, is able to focus all of his attention at keeping Zap there. And so Zap's only sitting on maybe 1 or 2 more tiles than a player would generally expect. So Soren's still actually going to be outproducing him at this stage of the game, despite the fact that he is a scavenger player. And there's really no benefit coming for Zap. Now, it does have to be pointed out, the map put Zap in a very awkward position. Soren also countered the way Zap played it out very well with those underground nukes, committing to forcing Zap to basically starting to waste more and more tiles just to be able to take more and more claims, and doing it at a time where it was very expensive for Zap to expand. It's going to take 240 steel for him to push to any more tiles, and that's going to be very difficult to get a hold of. Almost impossible at this point because Soren has taken 7 of Zap's stock. He has the other 3, but that means only 53,000 required for the captain to finish out this game. And I wouldn't be surprised if most of it is sitting in that fuel right now.
Yeah.
We can see Soren at 59%. This production should very quickly finish this out. And it looks like we're well on our way toward a game 3.
Well, I can rest. I wasn't talking. I was so nervous for Soren.
One thing...
It's just
yeah, I understand.
Sorry.
One thing I do want to point out for chat, yes, Soren has 111,000 debt. Guess what? Who cares? His opponent doesn't have the money. He can't buy any stock right now. Much less, you know, all 10 of Soren's. It doesn't matter how low your stock price is if your opponent literally has no money. It's a fantastic use of debt from Soren this game, correctly identifying that he simply needs to shut down his opponent's production, and then he will very easily claim victory, not focusing too much on reducing his own debt.
New land is available for auction. Bidding will begin at...
Good job,
There we go. It's that simple. Well, I'm excited to see a game 3 between these. That was a hard game for Zap. It has to be said. He did not get... The map was not kind to him. Soren, I was questioning his found at the start. It wasn't great. But it turned out that with the way that particular map looked, it was possibly the best found available. And so kudos to him for identifying that very quickly on that map.
I'm starting to wonder whether it is ever a bad form for a good player to just go ahead and found. I'm saying good. There you go. There he's bought. I'm definitely saying a good player because a good player will always know how to found, basically. So is it advantageous that they go very, very quickly?
Well, there is certainly a lot of benefit in a 1v1 in particular to getting down very quickly. Just a simple 10 seconds of production ahead of your opponent can make a pretty big difference in getting to that second upgrade, that third upgrade, and taking those very high value tiles left on the map, even if your opponent happens to find a slightly better spot than you did, as long as the one you found is workable. But yeah, debt very well utilized by Soren that game. Zap was trying to kind of make it work for him. Soren was taking on a lot of debt. He identified that. He was trying to punish Soren where he could in relation to that by doing things like not auto-selling power. But Soren was having none of it, and he just got the buy off that simple hacker array play. So, 1-1 so far. I think we should head very quickly into Game 3. Once again, both these players seem very, very eager to fly through the game, so I'm not going to look at it too much more. I do want to take a glance at the black market. Soren with 2 Goon Squad purchases, those 2 underground nukes we saw that were absolutely huge in punishing Zap, 1 simple nuke claim for 6,000, and 2 power surges, shutting down Zap's production at crucial times over the course of the game. Zap trying out 2 EMPs, 1 claim purchase, 1 mutiny, which went on to a nice high silicon tile, and 1 Goon Squad. Not really able to get very much done with those. The EMPs simply slowing down Soren's inevitable victory. And the Mutiny, Goon Squad, and New Claim honestly not doing a whole lot on their own. So that looked at, let's go ahead and get toward Game 3.